Good Sunday morning to you. It's the 6th of April already. And yes, we lost track. Our last episode was supposed to be on a Thursday, and it was supposed to be a ton of ephemera for our library case, but things went sideways. And without boring you with all the details, I'll just say things went sideways. So, what I want you to notice is that I've tightened up the beginning of the show a little bit. And so as soon as you see the last image load and tools and materials load on the right side, you have about 5 seconds to stop your computer or your cell phone, take a screenshot, and then we're going to go on just like this. This first one is an envelope, and it is just about one of the easiest envelopes you'll ever make. It has no cutting whatsoever if you pay attention to the size that you're using. So my example was a book page, but this is 8.5 by 11. And my example has all my fold lines. The first two fold lines are that peak at the top, and that will make your fold down flap. The next two folds are on the sides, and you're going to fold in a half an inch. I end up doing 3/4 of an inch, and you'll see that at some point down the line in this demonstration. You'll notice that I make my fold a little bit bigger, or I refold it. I can't remember which I did in this one. Nevertheless, we're going to make those side folds, and I just used a 6-inch ruler as my guide, so I had something to keep my folds straight, and I did both folds this way. This came out of my master reference journal, the one I did with an altered book. And so all of these um, examples of papercraft are stored in that book. I also did a master reference journal at the same time. We sort of flipped back and forth between an altered book and a from scratch book. So my master reference journal playlist is a big dump list, and it has all kinds of papercraft in it. This is just one example. So now I've got my top folded down, my sides folded in, and I was just measuring there to see how much I wanted to fold up. And I've decided that I want to refold these creases as I said before. And now we're going to fold up our bottom to our top. We're going to save gluing for later so I can do it assembly line fashion and leave it weighted overnight so it doesn't curl up. And we're going to move on to the folding for our next project. This one, not project, piece of ephemera. This one is a page that I photocopied out of my altered master reference journal. And all I did was actually photocopy the physical pages that made this um, piece up. All it is 2 pages folded in with that butterfly. Monarch butterfly is the center of the spread. But for this, on the typing paper, what I'm going to do is make a little holder to take care of that tag that we had that wouldn't fit in anything because it was too tall and too heavy. So all we're really doing here is making a couple of straight folds and one that is a diagonal fold, tucking that little triangle underneath the diagonal fold so that we can slip our tag in, making sure we have enough room. I use some gold paint across the the photocopy of the 2 pages to mimic the stenciling that was already done on the original piece in the master reference book that had honeycomb on it. Super simple, super straightforward. I thought the layout when I originally did it was really pretty, but I never thought that I would have any further use for that particular spread other than just having it in my master reference journal to as an example of what we did together here on the show. But as it turns out, it turned into a second opportunity to rescue that poor tag. Okay, the next one is going to be a speed round, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to do when I started this. Watercolor pencils, I forgot to wet the paper. So anyway, lots of water, trying to get these colors to bleed together because really I only wanted a background. And I was getting a little frustrated, kept getting the paper wet and getting frustrated because I wasn't getting the blend I wanted. But eventually, the paper dried or I helped it dry. And then I got out my paper punch and I punched out some half circle tabs. And that's basically what this make is. It's half circle tabs or elements for a variety of different things in the future. In this build, however, we're going to use some of them, probably 4 or 5 of them, as page tabs, and then we'll maybe do 1 or 2 other decorative things just to show what you can do with a circle punch. So we're almost done punching out our half circles. I did want to mention, because I don't think I mentioned it earlier, that when you're doing half circles like this, and you want them to open up, you always want your folded edge to be on the inside of your circle punch, and you'll see that right there. That half circle that I'm cutting out, the folded edge is actually inside the cutter, not the other way. I could have done them the other way around, but was kind of on a mission. And here in the still shot are just a couple of things that I made. Down front, I used one of those. I glued it closed, the half circle. I glued it closed. Then I spaced it out on the envelope so that the flap, the pointy flap on the envelope would tuck inside behind my little green and yellow decorative thingamabob. So above that is what appears to be the wings of a ladybug, and that's probably what it'll end up being. Now, my red, as you can see on the upper right, is actually kind of pinky. It's not red, but I have this ink pad the color is brick red. I've had it for 7 or 8 years, at least 4 of those 7 or 8 years. It has sat in the open air with no top on it because I lost the top, and it is still wet and I can still get ink out of it. And I don't ever do anything to it. It just sits there and I keep hoping it'll dry out. Moving on, we'll check with the red ink pad in another 4 years. The rest of those things are just the circles we cut out. I'll take 3 or 4 of them to use for page tabs, and then the one directly above the envelope is just one that is folded in half, and I have some, like very lacy washi tape that I glued to it, bend it in half, and it'll be a fancy tab or something. But wait, we're not done yet. Look at what else you can make with a circle punch. I left that little piece of green tape on there because I wanted to show you what happens with washi tape if you don't use glue. This little circle is a charm and it's probably 3 years old. I don't think that I used any glue other than the sticky that's on the back of that washi tape. And as you can see, as it dries out, it shrinks and it peels up. So I'm going to put a little bulldog clip on there and I'm going to peel the rest of it back later on and put some silicone glue on there and repair it. I made the little frame that I want to talk to you about with 2 circle punches. And that little frame is just another piece of washi tape in between a 1 3/4 circle punch and the cutout for a 1 inch circle punch, and you get a little frame. And I suppose you could do the same thing with squares and rectangles. I want to say something about the washi tape again. If your image, like mine is on this one of the little girl, washi tape of any kind, put that image on a piece of white paper or cardstock or scrap paper, what have you, to back it so that you get good contrast showing through. And then put your frame on top of the whole thing and whatever decorations, like I did, using an image of a hair bow. The last image we're going to consider of the ephemera we're making, I actually had to make a master print for, and I will talk about the master print making in a separate video. What you're seeing is a finished print. The top print here is a very bad copy with ink blotches of a master print that I don't know where it is right now. So I needed to recreate it. And all it is woven strips of book page that this is a black and white copy of. Next, I put a piece of, I think it was either tracing paper or maybe wax paper on the glass, and then put my print on the glass. And here you see the three copies. And this is a still shot of all the copies laid on top of each other. You'll notice in the lower right-hand corner, there's a blank spot or a white spot where the copies did not faithfully reproduce what was in the bottom corner. And that's due to the margins on the printer. I think that I probably forgot to set borderless. So on the top is the piece of its wax paper, then the woven piece of book pages, then the black and white copy, then the black and white copy with the wax paper on it, and finally the final print, which I shaded with only what was left on the brush of my blender. So what are we going to do with this master print that I remade? Well, let's find out. This is a printing technique I saw on somebody else's channel, and what I'm using are a bunch of very small individual stamps out of various themed collections. And the idea is that you take those stamps and you put them on a glass jar that has facets, and then you ink up all those stamps and roll them down the print that you're printing on. I'm using StazOn black permanent ink, jet black permanent ink. And right away, knowing what I know about StazOn, how quickly it dries, I'm thinking that I already have too many stamps on this glass jar, but let's just ink it up and roll it out and see what happens. In theory, this should work really well, and I should get a random pattern based on the stamps that I chose. And some of them are very small individual stamps that I stacked up on, one facet of the jar, and others of them are long stamps like that bookcase. And so here we go. We're going to roll it out and see what kind of print we got. I place it down and I don't let it rest very long, which is counterintuitive for stamping. Usually, it's not the pressure you put on the stamp when you put it on the paper, it's the few seconds that you let the stamp just sit there and let the paper absorb the ink. And some of these worked better than others, so I re-ink it again and we roll it out again. What I'm already beginning to see is that fine line stamps, like the smaller stacks of books, are not going to give a good impression, if any impression at all. The stamps need to be more solid, like the ink spots you see in the middle up there, but let's just keep going. There's really not much difference between a photocopy and the master print, so I put the master print aside and worked on a photocopy. You can see I didn't print the whole page because I had satisfied myself that I was going to get a random pattern and that StazOn might not be the best choice for my black ink, but at least I know that if I spray ink, like alcohol ink or what have you, on this page, that the stamps ink will not run. So let's make something out of this. And I choose a tag because I have several tags that we made in previous ephemera shows where I left the back empty and with the idea that I could finish the tag with either writing space or a collage or something. And I chose the shorter, fatter tag there because we already have one long, skinny tag. So I'd just line it up with the left edge and grab a pencil and draw cut lines. And I'm not even worried about drawing right on the face of the print because I'm going to cut those lines off anyway. And I just need a cutting guide mostly for that top and then to get the width correct. Let's speed ahead a little bit. I've glued it down and put a one of those postage stamp portraits, and I'll leave room on the top. And here's the back. I used some satin rat tail cord, and then I went hunting in my ephemera to find my coffee stickers that I have not been able to find for well over a year. And as it turns out, they were sitting in an ephemera keeper, just waiting patiently for me to use them. Just to be on the safe side, I threw a little glue on the back of that, and this sticker goes very well with the random stamps that I chose. And that one says Sunday on it, and it's a paper piece of ephemera, so I'll glue that down as well. Even though you couldn't see it very well, it is a bakery themed sticker, and it goes nicely with the books and coffee and brings back really good memories of the way I used to spend at least part of my Sundays when I lived in the city towards the end of my time there. I would go and get usually a croissant, sometimes some other um, pastry from a bakery that baked bread fresh every day, and a coffee, and I'd go sit and read either outside or somewhere in the building. And it was just a nice way to spend a Sunday. Now, the washi tape circle that you saw previously, I have re-glued it. Apparently, maybe I did use silicone glue on it once before, and the silicone glue did not hold the washi tape for whatever reason. So I've glued it again and repaired it, and we're going to use that as a dangle through the knot in the rat tail cord. Even though I tied a surgeon's knot, I want that rat tail to stay, not slipping and not unraveling. A little pinch with the bent nose, needle nose pliers to keep the pin closed over itself, and we're done with this one. And I still have writing space if I want to put a little place to write above the stamp. Here's what we made this time for our library case ephemera. I accidentally glued that envelope shut. Here's something I made off camera, as are a couple of other things. It's just a little fold over with two pockets. It's got a typewriter on the left and an old telephone on the right, and plenty of room on the back. Here's the envelope we made. That was a four-fold envelope, and I made a little bit of an accordion by gluing the sides A and B, 2A and 2B together. This I also made off camera, and I really despaired as I was making it that I was going to like it. But I do like it, and it has plenty of place on the back as well. And those two fold over pieces can actually go in as page inserts or center inserts themselves. And then we have plenty of half circles left over to make as tabs, and our little round medallion that could be a charm on some other thing, or could be just glued down on one of our pages. On Thursday, we're going to tackle one of the examples from Madame B's journal, that lattice work portrait gallery. That's going to prove to be a challenge because it will have a lot of very thin paper strips to make the lattice. I encourage you to try any of the techniques that are unfamiliar to you that we tried here. Thank you so much for stopping by. God bless you, and I will see you real soon.